Listen to The Vibes, hosted by Coyote Night. Listen in for some positivity and good times. The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I have here Mr. Greg Schwem, who is a corporate comedian. And I want you to tell me, what is a corporate comedian?
That is true. You know, it's funny because if I just told you I was a stand-up comedian, we could move on because everybody knows what that is. I had to take it one step further, Kyle. So corporate is, I specialize in shows for business organizations, big companies, business associations. And that's something that I didn't start out doing. I started out as a regular stand-up comedian, but I had the kind of act and I was doing the kind of material very early on, talking a lot about computers and, you know, trying to figure out how to work one and all of that, was sort of garnering attention from corporations, even people like that work for big companies that were in the crowd at clubs would come up to me afterwards and they would say, you know, that bit you did about being on hold with tech support for 2.5 hours would really resonate at our offsite meeting that we're doing. And would you like to perform? And I mean, I didn't even know that this kind of stuff existed. I didn't know they had these kind of events because I never worked in the corporate sector. My background was in journalism before I got into comedy, before I left journalism for comedy. So I was like, really? You guys just go away for a couple of days and stay at this really nice hotel and talk about business? Yeah, sign me up for that. I'd be more than happy to come and make fun of you in a nice way, in a positive way. So little by little, I started getting hired and the companies that I got hired for kept getting bigger and bigger, and the events kept getting bigger and bigger. And I finally just decided this is something I'm good at. And it was a great way to kind of separate myself from the pack because I think everybody in any kind of show business, you have to eventually find a niche, whether it's the way you speak or the audience that you cater to. You have to have something that you're known for. And that's what I became known for. So that's what I've been doing for about the last 25 years or so.
Oh, sweet. And you said you were a journalist.
Yes. Yeah, that was it. That was my background. I majored in journalism in college. And I always thought that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a TV news reporter, or I wanted to be on TV. And I started out in newspaper down in West Palm Beach, Florida. I started out as a newspaper reporter. And then I jumped to the local TV station. And that was great. I mean, I was 22, 23 and reporting on things. I mean, South Florida's a messed up. It is a messed up environment. Still, it was then, is now, probably will always be. And that's good and bad, but you get a little bit of everything in South Florida. And I was able to report on some pretty amazing things. But I also, at the same time that I was doing that, I'd always been a fan of stand-up, and I'd been doing stand-up comedy really since I was 16. That's when I first tried it. Was in high school. Yeah. And it was just a hobby. It was a way to meet people because I didn't know anybody when I moved down to West Palm. I didn't know anybody. I took the job over the phone and just was like, okay, this seems fun. So I started hanging out at comedy clubs, and the other comedians became my friends, and that was my social life. And the fact that I did it as a hobby, I was able to get stage time, and they opened up a really, really good club. A guy that had really deep pockets. He was a concert promoter, and he was also a big comedy fan. But because he had a lot of money, he was able to get some really good comics that even back then were starting to, you know, work theaters and get TV deals and sitcom deals and things like that. And he was able to get them at his club. So I got to see the best every weekend, and sometimes work with the best. So, and little by little, I just, the more I did it, I just thought, I like doing this more. I like making people laugh more than depressing people, which is kind of what I was doing every night on the news. And whether I wanted to or not, that's just what they sent me out to do. And I didn't have a say in really the kinds of stories that I covered. So I just decided I was going to quit my job and try to make it as a comedian. And that was in 1989.
Wow. '89. That's the year I graduated high school.
Really? Okay. I like the Queen. Yeah, but you got the classic rock shirt on. You got the Queen going on.
That's right.
Are you still a Queen fan even with Adam Lambert?
You know, I can't complain. I mean, I haven't seen them in concert, live, but I've of course seen the clips of them on TV, and God does a pretty good job.
And plus it gives those guys a chance to do those songs again. And it's so weird because a lot of the bands that you and I grew up with, and those kind of 80s bands and so forth, those guys, some of those bands are now doing corporate dates. They're all in their 60s and so forth, and they get paid very well to come out and do an hour and 15 minutes. That's the standard corporate set, is 75 minutes. And I love watching them because they still look like one of my favorite bands in high school was Styx. All right. I love Styx. Yes. Okay. I got to work with Styx a couple of years ago.
No way.
Private event. A big insurance company hired them. There's only two guys from pretty much the original lineup that are left, but the coolest guys. And the big rock star thing was gone at this point. I think they're just happy to be out there still working. And once these guys got on stage, I was looking at them like, how many times have they played Blue Collar Man and so forth? I mean, thousands, and yet they still look like they're having fun. And if they weren't, they hit it very well. And I thought, how cool for them. How cool to still be doing what you love when you're in your mid 60s or so forth. And you still, as long as you still sound good, why not?
Oh yeah. Tommy Shaw still got it.
Yeah. It just, and just the nicest guy, and was able to, sit backstage and talk with him. It turns out that James Young, the lead guitar player, those guys kind of grew up around Chicago. Well, James Young lives about 30 minutes from me. I didn't realize that.
Really?
Yeah, he lives in a suburb not too far from where I live, and so I was just sort of throwing out. Well, the funny thing is, he said he tells me where he lives, and I go, oh, so I said, so your kids probably went to Lyons Township High School, and he goes, no kids. All right, sorry. Okay, there the rock star thing came out just a little bit, but okay.
Hey, I tell you what, James Young, he did Miss America, and I mean, he sounded just like he did on the album, so he hadn't lost a beat either. Yeah.
Now I gotta ask you, did you see Springsteen on Saturday Night Live?
No, I didn't.
Okay, because I'm a big huge Springsteen fan too, and he was on SNL, and he just put out he hit a few clunker notes. I felt kind of bad for him, and I was like, dude, oh man, you hate to see that, but he's still out there. He's still out there putting out new music at 71. That's awesome.
Crazy. My first ever concert was Tom Petty and Bob Dylan.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I tell you what, you close your eyes and kick back, and you couldn't tell which one was singing. So
right. That's funny.
They put on a show.
I'll bet they did.
I miss Tom Petty. That was one of my favorite concerts.
Yeah. That's a shame. Another guy that was still out there up until the day he died, still out there playing big venues and still putting out new music.
One of my other favorites was Chicago. And the last time I got to see them, Kool and the Gang opened up for them.
Okay.
And Kool and the Gang, I mean, these guys, they got to be close to 70, if not over 70. And they were dancing like they were 20 years old out there. I mean, still doing the flips.
Isn't that great? Chicago's another band I worked with on the corporate sector too.
One of my faves, man.
Right. Just great. And just so fun to just be with them backstage and just be like, man, I listened to you in high school, and you were filling arenas, man. I mean, not a bad thing, but it's like that now you're with your sort of your idols, standing right there, just shooting the crap with them. Like, so where are you guys going from here?
Yeah. You're getting old when you have conversations with them and you're talking about arthritis and
oh, totally. Yeah, exactly. And they're done, or when their show's over at like 9,
It's getting late, guys.
Right. Really? You're not going to like trash the hotel room? You guys don't, we're not going to go out and break the toilet or something? I thought that's what you did.
I'm going to leave the Maalox in the cup. Man, I guess my ultimate was when I got to meet Kiss.
Oh, really?
Yes, because that's one of those bands that, I mean, they came out when I was real little, and my mother wouldn't let me listen to them because, they were the devil. They the devil, you know. And as I got older, I kind of, I've got to hide it a little bit better. And then I got to be an adult. I finally got to go see them. And anyway, 2010, we went to Frisco, Texas, and they played at Pizza Hut Park, which is where the Dallas soccer team plays.
Oh, okay.
And got to go backstage, got to meet them, got to be in the pit while they were playing, the whole 9 yards. And my claim to fame is Gene Simmons accidentally spit on me while I was in the pit. So
accidentally, yeah. Spit or blood on you? Yeah.
I would have preferred the blood, but
right.
It's better than nothing, I guess.
That's something that's probably never coming back now is a pit, a concert pit.
I know. All the younger ones, they get in there and they do all that dancing and slamming around and stuff. And no, I would break something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so tell me about some of the comedians that you've worked with or that you've got to see.
Yeah, let's see, who have I starting with way back in that club in West Palm that I mean, Jerry Seinfeld worked there. A lot of these guys that were really big, they would come down there for a reason. Like Jerry Seinfeld's mom lived about 20 minutes away, so he would come to work the club so he could visit his mom. I mean, that was one of the reasons. Spring Train, a lot of them were big baseball fans. So like Jeff Foxworthy, was a big Atlanta Braves fan, and the Atlanta Braves used to spring train in West Palm Beach, so he'd come down. I worked with him. I played golf with him one day. I actually started out with Larry the Cable Guy. I can't call him Larry the Cable Guy. I got to call him Dan Whitney because he was Dan Whitney at the time, so he's still Dan to me. But he and I were part of this little contingent of guys that started out in West Palm. And believe it or not, there was like 5 of us, and we've all gone on to do stuff. I mean, in different ways. Dan's the most successful. Carrot Top was another one that was in that group. And, he's big in Vegas now. There's
steroids.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's just weird to look at. Yeah,
big in Vegas.
A guy named Todd Barry, who's done very well, moved to New York and has done very well. Used to open for Louis C.K. a lot when Louis C.K. was a thing. So anyway, so I worked with him. I worked with. I got to open some shows for Dennis Miller back when Dennis was in his prime, like when he was Monday Night Football color guy. What a train wreck that was, huh?
Oh my God! You had,
what were they thinking?
You had to have a PhD to keep
exactly
what he was saying.
Wouldn't you have loved to have been a fly on the wall when they said, "Hey, Dennis Miller might make a good third guy in the booth for Monday Night Football"? And it only lasted 1 year, but the year that I opened for him, it was that year. So he was playing. This was like a 4,000 seat. We did at the Erie Crown Theater, in the club days coming up, a lot of guys. Steve Harvey, I worked with him in a club in Kansas City before he was anybody. And the list I could go on and on. I mean, I'm trying to remember all the different guys I worked with and girls too, who've just really gone on to do some big things. But and that's the great thing about comedy. There's a great Showtime documentary on right now about the history of the Comedy Store in LA, which I've never worked. I've only been to LA a couple of times. It was just not. I was never one of those comics. It's like I got to go out to LA and try and make it out there.
Right. But
it's if you're into comedy, if your listeners are into comedy and they get Showtime, it's really interesting because the Comedy Store's been around since like 1973. And, they go, I mean, it's where Letterman started. It's where Leno started. They interview both of them. and just talk about the history of it and how careers were made and how careers died there, and kind of how the Comedy Store went from being the place to the place you didn't want to be seen, to the place that almost closed, to the place that is now on the way back. And it's interesting to hear some of the comedians and comedians just talk about it and what it meant to them.
You know what David Letterman's big break was?
Mork and Mindy?
No. There was a there was a show called the Starland Vocal Band Show.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you remember that. It was.
I don't remember. I remember Starland Vocal. Is that Afternoon Delight?
Yes.
Okay.
They had a show,
They
and
had a
he was on it.
Really?
Yes.
That I don't. Man, he must have really wanted to hide that, because I know he was a writer, or he was like a regular on. Mary Tyler Moore had like a variety show after the show went off, and I think he was like a writer on there, or he did something, and then he had a cameo. He had a cameo on an episode of Mork and Mindy.
Wow.
And he talks about how Robin Williams, like was one of the first guys that really busted out at the Comedy Store and gave him that as a favor, So it is very interesting. But Letterman is that people always say, like, who do you model yourself after, or who are your idols growing up? And for me, it was Letterman. He used to guest host the Tonight Show when Johnny Carson was the host.
Right.
And he hosted every Monday. And that's really the only time I used to watch that. I never really was a fan of Carson, but when this Letterman guy hosted, and after a while he was doing it every Monday night. Every Monday he like signed a deal where he was the permanent host every Monday. That's when I used to tune in. I used to just like to listen to his monologue, because I just thought I could kind of hear myself talking. And he was a Midwestern guy too.
Yeah, I used to love to watch the late night.
Yeah.
The early days, I kind of got away from it, after I got married, but I used to love late night with
He
David
changed
Letterman.
a lot. I mean, he did. What really changed Letterman was 9/11. I think 9/11 really changed him. He became a little more, having more political and more media people on the show and so forth. But I mean, he did it for over 30 years. So I guess at some point you got to change.
Yeah, I hear you. So, what else do you like to do besides comedy?
Besides comedy, well, that takes up a lot of my time. I do have a couple of, as they say, as the younger generation says, the side hustles that I have. I actually stayed in journalism. I've been writing a biweekly, used to be weekly, now it's biweekly humor column for the Chicago Tribune Syndicate. And that's syndicated in about 25 markets around the country, and a couple international markets too. And I just, every other week, I have to write 650 words, which is basically a screen and a half. If you want to know how long that is, it's 1.5 computer screens, double spaced. So, and they basically let me write about whatever I feel like writing about. So, just anything and it keeps my writing chops sharp and keeps me. It's kind of weird because it's kind of like having a term paper hanging over your head all the time. It's like, I got to get this done, but it forces me to always be thinking and listening and wondering what, I want to write about. It's interesting because what I wrote about, what part of Texas are you in?
Right now I live really close to Austin.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
Because the latest column that I wrote was because and we said before this, we weren't going to talk politics, and we're not. We're going to talk comedy. But I did get my incentive for writing my inspiration was your Republican guy, your Republican head saying that you think you might secede from the Union, because of my column was what I'm going to miss and what I'm not going to miss about Texas. But the first thing I said I was going to miss was Austin, because I do love Austin, and I've never been to South by Southwest, and I've never been to the Austin city limits or so forth. But I've just always enjoyed every show that I've done. I mean, there's certain cities that I just really, when I signed the contract, it's like I can't wait until that, because I can get to go to Austin. or I get to go to New Orleans, or I get to go to New York City. Those are three of my favorite cities. So I haven't been to Austin in a while, but I do love that. I do love that city, and I just like to love the people. And so that's one of the things I would miss. So it was about 50-50, the column, as far as what I'd miss and what I wouldn't miss. So anyway, so I do that. And then I also have a TV series that I'm excited about that I called A Comedian Crashes Your Pad. And the way that was formed was I started to become kind of intrigued with the home sharing market about 4 or 5 years ago. The Airbnbs. Have you ever done home sharing?
No,
never have. Any interest?
When I'm trying to get rid of kids, so no, I have no interest.
I certainly would never. Yeah, I certainly would not want somebody living in my house. I mean, I couldn't be the person hosting, but I love the idea of just. The way the series came about was I thought anybody who would invite strangers into their house or wherever it was they lived, without really even vetting them, without really asking any questions, just saying, come on in. I thought that had to be a very interesting person. And especially in this age of when we're all, on our guard all the time, and we all, live behind walls and have guns, in our nightstands and so forth, and security systems, and we don't trust anybody. And yet there's still this group of people who is like, yeah, come on in, I'll give you the code. And just leave the key in the dish when you're done. And I thought that's pretty cool. And so I thought, as long as, and my kids had gotten a little older, and it wasn't as big of a deal now to have to run home immediately after shows because there was Little League or something like that. So I thought, well, why don't I just maybe see if I can find somebody interesting to stay with while I was in town performing. Mm-hmm. So I'd stay at the hotel where the gig was one night, and then I'd go and I'd find a home share, either the previous night or the night after. And I started doing this, and I thought there's something here. These people are really interesting. So I started bringing a camera and just recording the interactions. And I told all my hosts, I said, if you agree to this, I said, here's the only thing that's a given. I said, you have to consent to a sit-down interview with me where you talk about home sharing. So that's like my version of a podcast. And you have to consent to a tour of your property, an on-camera tour of your property. And I go, that's the minimum. Anything else you want to do, let's do it. I go, if you have a favorite bar you like, if you do something, if there's some place to see that you just hang out at or something, let's go. And I have met so many really cool people and really gotten inside their lives, which is what I enjoy doing. I just enjoy it. People intrigue me. So, so I just was doing them all, editing them on my iPhone and putting them up on YouTube and seeing if anybody was interested. And, I got a little traction, nothing great, but just last month I got a distribution company out in LA that signed on as the distributor. So now they're going to hopefully take it to the next level. So you can find the episodes on, if you download an app in the Apple Store and Google Play called Fantastic Entertainment. Okay. You can watch episodes now. But we've taken them off YouTube and so forth. There's a couple. If you go to a comediancrashesyourpad.com, there's a couple of little ones you can see. But for the most part, yeah, that's Fantastic Entertainment has taken it over, and I'm excited about 2021. And the great thing is in home sharing, we're still able to do this during the pandemic. Because you kind of set your own. You decide where you want to go. You're not at the mercy of, say, a hotel.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the weird thing about YouTube, I mean, it's kind of fickle because you've got algorithms and, certain tags that you have to put in and all this stuff. You may have a wonderful show, but if it doesn't get in that right algorithm, people don't see it. Yeah. And, you have to rely on people to share. And I mean, if you're like me, I get on there and I find something I like, and I usually just watch the video and then go to the next one, and I don't really share them, Yeah. And I should.
But it's kind of sad that that's the way things work now is that, how popular you are, how successful you are
Mhm.
depends on how many likes you have. I mean, I know some hilarious comedians that have no social media presence. And I also know comedians that have thousands and thousands of followers that, I'm sorry, ain't funny. They
Mm.
just happen to hit something. And there's been a lot of comedians who have been. It works both ways, because like there've been comedians who have got that viral bit that got 3 million views, and all of a sudden they're getting, they're getting deals and they're getting offers to headline clubs and theaters, and they don't have the material. They got a great 5-minute bit, but they don't have an hour. I mean, there's more. You got to have more material than just your killer 5 minutes that got you that thing, and it's wrong, but unfortunately it's the way it works. But I don't think you should. I, for one, have never been discouraged I've never stopped putting out episodes and saying, well, I just don't have 1 billion followers, so I better stop. Because there's other ways to get noticed. I think I've always been a big believer in that.
Well, my philosophy has been, even if I have one person out there that likes watching my videos, if you can get one person to pay attention to you,
yeah,
you've done something.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I don't have a great big production and all these editors and things. I do all this myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the fancy graphics that a lot of other people can afford to do, but there's some of their shows are just not that good.
Exactly. Right.
I'm not saying mine are any better. I'm not, I don't like to have an ego about it, but I see stuff out there where it'll be just a guy and a camera, no special editing or anything, and the show will be funny,
right,
or interesting, whatever. And it just seems like, oh, they didn't put a whole lot of effort into it, but there's something special about it.
Right.
They don't get noticed because they don't have all the big production and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet it's just the way the game's played, I guess.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How long you been doing this?
Oh man, I've been doing something. Well, I've done something similar to this for about 3-4 years now.
Okay.
And it actually started out in the paranormal.
Right.
And I was getting all these cool people from the paranormal world to come on the show. Marcus Harvey from Ghost Brothers. Had Chad Lindbergh from Ghost Seekers. You also might know him from Fast and the Furious.
Okay.
A lot of the ghost hunters and stuff like that. But then I was meeting other people who were just as fascinating, but had nothing to do with the paranormal.
Right.
And so I started interviewing them, and it turned to that. And then I don't know what's happened to this world. I mean, we've always had something negative going on forever.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems like there's so much discouragement nowadays. People don't see much hope. So many people down and out. And I said, you know what? It's time to bring some joy back into this world. And
exactly. Yeah. And that's what's kept me going too. I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, we mentioned before we started that I said, even though the comedy clubs for the most part are not open. I have not traveled to do a corporate event since March. I mean, I used to do about 50 of these a year and log, 100,000 miles on planes, and I haven't done that. So I've done some virtual events, and people say, how weird is that? How weird is it to do stand-up comedy to a computer screen and a bunch of people on screens from all over the place who you may or may not hear laughing? I mean, right. But they might choose to not have their microphone on, and which sometimes is better. I mean, I've done some of these virtual shows where there's like 700 people on. Well, you can't have 700 microphones open. No one would hear me. They hear
right.
Kids and dogs and people, that think they're on mute and so forth. But so is it weird? It totally is weird, and it never will not be weird. But at the same time, the idea that just like what you said, I mean, if one person listens to you and get some joy out of it, if I can make one, if I know one person who is just maybe sitting in Zoom meetings all day long, and this is what they're doing, and if I can get them just to laugh, it's all worth it. It's a very strange form of gratification. And, that's really always been my philosophy of doing corporate events too, is, I always tell clients, I always say, I'm going to have some fun with you. I'm going to have some fun with your company or with I go, but at the end of the day, I want everybody to leave the room thinking this is a really cool place to work because they hired him. They hired that guy, and it proves that they don't have to take themselves too seriously. And we got some laughs in our very serious job. We were able to just laugh about what we do for an hour. And to me, that's there's something about that is just so cool and so, like you said, so needed.
Yeah. There's needs to be more joy brought into this world. I mean,
Exactly.
we get bombarded with so much stuff all the time. I say the politics and, riots and everything else that's going on. And, you got that person, especially since everybody seems to be isolated because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get out and meet people, and you have somebody that's maybe already living alone. Now they're even more isolated.
Right. The only thing they have is their computer.
Yeah.
And social media and somebody. I have a good friend, one of my comedian friends in New York. One of his jokes is like, everything you read on social media, you should be saying to yourself immediately, don't scroll down. Don't scroll down. And he's so right. It's like, just read it and move on. Don't go to the comments. Don't do you did it. Now you did it.
Now you done it.
now you've just ruined the rest of your day, and it was your own fault.
That's when I first got on social media, the only reason why I got on it was because we were doing our high school reunion through that.
Yeah.
And so I joined Facebook, was getting in touch with people I hadn't talked to in 10 years. And,
sure.
That was a great thing. And then,
it's addicting at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're, meeting other people or people you haven't talked to in even longer. And, it's awesome. Even family I haven't talked to in ages.
Yeah.
And then it just got to be, okay, I was on there to do that. And then the whole podcasting and everything, and plus, I do paranormal stuff as well. We started posting for that, and now I get on there. I do my post for the show, and I get off of it because I just
and that's probably a good thing. And more people need to do that. I think more people need to just spend less time, because I think there's a TV weatherman here in Chicago, and he's got 4 kids, and he just announced that he was like getting off social media. But then he talked about his kids, and he said one of his kids, 16 years old, actually said to him, I can spend like 45 minutes on social media, and when I'm done, I don't feel any better about myself. And I think really a lot of people have to ask that if you spend, it's like, okay, you're done. Do you feel better or worse right now? And I would say most people probably feel worse or more angry. Is that why you wanted to do, was that your, when you sat down, was that your goal, was to be pissed off in an hour? Because I think that's what's happening. And I don't know what's going to, Kyle, I mean, I don't really know what's going to change that. I don't know if that's going to filter out. I mean, I always thought karaoke would eventually die, and that's still going strong. So I don't see a lot of hope for the demise of social media.
Well, it's going to take people like us to just keep putting that positive out there in the universe,
and not worrying about how many followers and how many likes. I mean, it's great. It's great for your ego. It's an immediate ego boost, which they've done all these science, studies that said that's what people, they get that quick blast of endorphins or whatever it is. And it makes them feel good about themselves because 20 people like it. And I'll admit, I mean, have I fallen prey to that? Do I still? Yeah, I think it's hard not to, but it's not going to change my life because I got 37 likes on a tweet,
You got 37? Dang, that
No,
must be nice.
That makes me a better person than you. Huh? See, now how jealous of you you didn't realize you had such a big celebrity on your show.
So
I should have mentioned that right off the bat.
I got to ask you. So you get invited to a friend's party or something. Not a corporate party, but a friend's party, and you show up, and people find out that you do comedy. This is the first thing out of their mouth. Tell me something funny or tell me a joke.
Yep. A lot of people, not my close friends, they've kind of learned, but yes, I do get a lot of say something funny. And I think it's kind of a knee jerk reaction. And I have the standard responses, which hopefully don't make me sound like a jerk. I'll say something like, "Oh man, I'm not funny on Thursdays." If you'd ask that question Tuesday, I would be riffing, but Thursday's my day off. Or sometimes I'll say, "What do you do?" I'll find out what they do. It's like, "Oh, you're a dentist? Come on, well, does anybody ever say drill my tooth right now? How come it's just me? How come it's just this profession where I have to perform all the time?" So, and I think people they mean well. It's just something that comes with the territory. I don't think anybody is, trying to test me or quiz me or something. I get more uncomfortable, I think, and I think any comedian will tell you, when people find out you're a comedian and then they think that everything you say is funny. Like you'll just be saying something and they'll start laughing, or it's like, no, I just said, are there any, where all I said was, do you have club soda to go with this? And it wasn't a joke. I just want to know, where the hell's a club soda? We're at a party. Or people who feel like it's a contest. Like, he's funny, so I need to try and be funnier. I don't get that. It's not a contest, and I don't go to parties with the intention of being funny and entertaining people. I've actually turned down shows because you mentioned your reunion. You mentioned that's why you got on social media. Well, I've had offers to do, high school reunions, my own, and schools I had never heard of, wedding rehearsal dinners. And I've turned them all down, and I turn them down because I go, well, don't you want to visit? Why do you want me there? Why do you want to all shut up and have to listen to me? If I go to my reunion, that's the last thing I want to walk around and talk to people I haven't seen in 20, 30 years or whatever. Yeah. I don't want to be told, okay, now we all have to sit at a table to listen to this guy that nobody knows. I don't get it. I don't understand why people want comedians, and certain comedians are not right for every situation.
Yeah, funerals probably wouldn't be great, huh?
Actually, I think a funeral, I've never actually, I've been to some pretty funny memorial services. There was a guy who ran a comedy club in New Orleans that died unexpectedly at a very young age. And at his memorial service, of course, it was all comedians, and they were all invited to come up and say something. And it was damn funny.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be awesome. That's where I want my funeral to be.
Yeah, exactly right. Do you want everybody to be sad? Why not? Why not? I did what I thought was a pretty funny eulogy for an old friend, and I never for once thought it was inappropriate. As long as it's in good taste and so forth. It wasn't like the drunken brother at the wedding reception. Let me tell you really about the bride here. You think she's innocent. It's not one of those. So
what I want to do is, at my funeral, is play Pop Goes the Weasel, and I would like to come back as a ghost and see if I could see their reaction.
When you just pop out. Now I'll bet that would get more than 37 likes.
It probably would. I'm gonna tell my wife, rig something up.
That might be the viral video, and unfortunately you're dead, so you can't enjoy the social media success that has been eluding both of us.
Hey, that maybe I got a new $1 million idea to have at funerals.
There you go. Exactly.
And my wife actually used to work for a funeral company, so.
Really?
She could get me in the door.
Well, it's funny. I almost had a show, the National Association of Funeral Directors. That's an actual group. And it's all people that run funeral homes. And they have a huge convention every year. They're based in Wisconsin. That's where they're headquartered. And I was actually, before the pandemic, I was actually having discussions with them about doing some, doing a show at their convention. It was in New Orleans. And I have a friend of mine, an old college buddy of mine. His first job out of college was he ran catering. He worked for the company that did catering at McCormick Place, which in Chicago is the big convention, the huge convention expo hall. And he said, the National Association of Field Directors, he goes, Greg, these people are crazy. He goes, they're nuts. He goes, we cannot keep liquor in stock fast enough for these. He goes, they're wild. And I said to him, and he was saying that in a good way. He goes, they're just nuts. And I go, well, wouldn't you be? I go, that totally makes sense to me. If your whole business is every day is just sadness and having to, I go, yeah, you can't wait until you can cut loose with people that get it, people like yourselves that get it. I did a hilarious show for the Ohio. It was like people who ran long-term care facilities. So these were nursing home employees and administrators. Same thing. I mean, obviously, I'm not making jokes about the elderly and so forth, but you could just tell that these people, they it's a very serious profession. And that they all got out, they were all in Columbus or wherever for 3 days, and they were gonna have fun. And they were great. They were so much fun. And I love groups like that.
Wow. Yeah. If you can get something like that and put some joy into their life, because I mean, they have so much sadness already around them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Bring some joy.
Laughter heals everything. It really does. And that's why I'm so, I know that we're going to come out of this pandemic, and I know that I will be back on the road eventually doing shows in front of live audiences. I can't wait, but I'm willing to ride it out and just continue making people laugh either through the written word or the virtual word, whatever. And again, keep doing the pad crashing series and kind of showing people that it's still okay to travel. It's still okay to have fun. You don't have to be shut in your house all the time.
So if you could send me the links to everything,
of course, I
will gladly post those in the descriptions of the video and the audio.
Okay.
So people can find you that way.
All right.
How can they find you on social media?
On social media, if you just go to Greg Schwem, if you just search Greg Schwem on either Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you'll find me. I don't have a stage name or anything like that. And that's probably the best way to learn about me, and then to find other LinkedIn as well. I'm big on LinkedIn. So just search my name and let's start a conversation.
Sweet. Okay, I have to ask you, can you do a joke for us before we end the show?
Didn't we just have this conversation?
Hey, man, come on, man. I got to let the people know that you're worth going to check out. So
okay, I will do. Well, I don't really do one-liners, but I will do one. And this is nice, and this is pretty clean. Okay. It's clean because that's what I do. I'm a clean comic. So this guy, he's a retired guy, and he plays golf every Tuesday with a bunch of his buddies. And he gets up one Tuesday morning, and he sneaks out, and he leaves his wife sleeping. She's kind of curled up in a ball facing the wall, and I don't want to, wake her, so he sneaks out. He realizes it's just pouring rain, and but he thinks, maybe it'll clear up. So he starts driving to the course, and he's like, after 10 minutes, he's like, this is ridiculous. It ain't going to stop. It's set him for the day. So he turns around, goes back upstairs. His wife is exactly where he left her, just curled up in a ball facing the wall. So he very quietly takes off all his clothes, and he gets in bed next to her, and he snuggles up to her, and he whispers in her ear, he says, it is a cold, wet, nasty kind of morning. And she giggles a little bit, and she goes, I know. Do you believe that idiot's out playing golf? It's like one of my favorite jokes.
Hey, that's kind of good. I like him when you don't have to get nasty.
There you go. Exactly.
I'm a grandpa now, so I have to learn all the clean jokes.
Right.
All the dad jokes.
Right.
Hey, Greg, I appreciate you coming on, man. I'm definitely going to share that out, and please come back and visit us again.
Yeah.
I would love to.
I would love to, and I love the festive nature of your setup back there. I love the Kiss. I just noticed now that's a Kiss stocking. We were talking about Kiss. How did I not notice that until just now? So you have a Kiss. That's. I don't have a stick stocking.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a whole room that's nothing but Kiss stuff. So
all right, there you go. There you go. Well, I hope Santa brings you everything Kiss related that you are hoping for this year.
I've asked every year. All I want is a Kiss pinball machine, and nobody will get it for me.
Darn it. Okay, I'm sorry.
If y'all just pitch in all your money together, you buy me this, you won't have to buy me anything else. So.
That's right. I think that's a great crowdfunding thing. Buy Kyle Kiss pinball machine. That's
right. Let's go ahead and get a GoFundMe, and let's get that going.
Exactly. All right.
But thanks again, and I want to thank everybody that joins in and listens and watches us on YouTube. Without your support, we wouldn't be here. So
that's right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Kyle. Happy holidays to you. Okay.
Happy holidays.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network and on Instagram at The Vibes Broadcast.